So the topic today, as Manish has said, the need of the hour. We have here in the audience a lot of young students also, and I don't mean young by age, I can say young at heart also. तो हम जो माइथोलॉजी पढ़ते हैं उसमें नीड ऑफ द आवर क्या है एंड व्हाट इज द प्रेजेंट जनरेशन गोइंग टू ड्रॉ फ्रॉम इट एंड व्हाई शुड दे बी रीडिंग माइथोलॉजी. या हम राम रक्षा स्तोत्र करते हैं या हनुमान चालीसा पढ़ते हैं तो क्या हम खाली कहते जाएं कि राम रक्षा स्तोत्र का एक राम कवच है कि शिरो में राघव पातु भालम दशरथात्मजय कौशल्य योदृशो पातु विश्वामित्र प्रिय श्रुति. नाउ व्हाई शुड यू एज अ यंग जनरेशन आप ये क्यों पाठ करें और इसमें से आपका क्या टेक अवे है, ये सब चीज़ें हम यहाँ पे डिस्कस करेंगे. सो माइथोस एक्चुअली इज द वर्ड, ग्रीक वर्ड है. मिथ बोलते हैं इसको. मिथ मतलब जो सुना गया है, जो मुंह से बोला गया है. शायद मिथ, मुथोस, इसी से शायद हिंदी का वर्ड भी आया होगा मुख. आई एम अज्यूमिंग दैट. तो मुख से तो बोला गया है, वही मिथ है, वही माइथोलॉजी है. बट व्हाई शुड यू एज द यंगर जनरेशन रीड द स्क्रिप्चर्स, रीड द रामायण, महाभारत, भगवत गीता, और आपको इससे क्या मिलने वाला है. तो ये सब बहुत डिस्टिंग्विश्ड ऑथर्स हैं हमारे साथ. मैं ये प्रश्न पहले ललिता जी से ही पूछना चाहूँगा. शी इज़ द सीनियर मोस्ट. उनकी एक किताब है ऑन द कृष्णा ट्रेल. तो ये किताब उन्होंने मुझे आज बहुत प्रेम से दी है. इट्स अ वेरी वैल्यूएबल गिफ्ट. तो मैं चाहूँगा कि आप इस किताब के बारे में कुछ कहें, और इस किताब को पढ़ने से या कोई भी हमारे स्क्रिप्चर्स पढ़ने से एज अ यंग जनरेशन व्हाट इज़ द नीड ऑफ द आवर, और इसमें क्या आपका टेक अवे हो सकता है.
Organizers of the Orange City Literature Festival for inviting me to participate in this panel discussion. I would also like to thank my literary agent, Suhail Mathur of the Book Bakers, for connecting me with the organizers. And about my book, this is On the Krishna Trail, in which I explore the places rendered sacred by the footsteps of Sri Krishna during his existence on earth. So I visited all these places myself and took the photographs myself to authenticate the information. I even spoke to the Devalayas, the officials in the Devaswam offices, and also spoke to the devotees to get their version of this trail. And that's how the book has come out. And I hope anybody who reads it would enjoy the journey. About mythology. Mythology is a treasure trove. It has so much of knowledge which can be imparted to the people around, but only if you delve into that mythology, the treasure trove, and pick up small pebbles of wisdom and impart it to whoever you come across. That is what mythology is all about. It is oral tradition, oral, people who were there in those times, they have imparted this, the information has been transmitted generation to generation through oral traditions. So, where after the written word has come into place, there are books written, and Valmiki Ramayana or Mahabharata written by Vedavyas. All these have been transmitted generation to generation through oral tradition actually, and then it has been written. So there may be a little bit of here and there in those accounts, because the written tradition has come later. So mythology deals with gods and goddesses. It is not only gods and goddesses, there are Vahans, there are, what do you say, anything connected with the gods and goddesses. And that is where we get the values of life from. So I would say, if we see everybody has some fear of death or hatred, everybody wants love and affection, everyone is having insecurities in relationships. But where do you get the solution? You don't get the solution for this from science or logic. You get it only from these tales. These tales impart so much wisdom. They give you how do you behave in society? How do you get over your insecurities? All this comes from spirituality. Spirituality is again a well. It's a deep well of knowledge. And you pick up the pebbles of wisdom from that, impart it to others, whoever you come across, so that they also get the benefit of it.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I would like to ask Mona ma'am अभी कि एक बहुत सुंदर किताब ये हाथ में रखी हैं, दैव्य सूत्र, and she's done a lot of research on the Puranas, and I would like to ask her कि why the Puranas and what is the takeaway for the present generation in this book or in the Puranas, and also what is her favorite character and why.
Okay. Thank you. First of all, thank you to OCLF for having us here, and thank you for the wonderful question. I'm honored and humbled to share the dais with such stellar personalities. So this book, the Deve Sutras, which I've written in association with my daughter, Sanjana, this book happened during the lockdown. We started the research during the lockdown. Actually, it was my publisher, Dipankar Mukherjee, who came up and he said that you've done 2 e-books and you've done about 5 anthologies during the lockdown. Why don't you do some, deep, insightful research on the Puranas? And I shrugged him off. I said, no, I'm not doing anything on the Puranas because the Vedas are all stutis and the Puranas are all smritis. So there basically is no written record and there are going to be so many dichotomies. So how do I go about this? To which he said, no, do the research. Do the research and see. If you come up with something in 6 months' time, very well. If you do not come up with something which you feel is legit, don't do the book. Then I started researching on the Puranas, but my first challenge over here, sir, was that maybe the younger generation, if we're directing these stories at the younger generation, because this book is directed towards anyone who can read to anyone who can still read, across all age brackets. Many people came up to me and said, but children don't read these days, and you are coming up with a book on the Puranas. To which I countered by saying that in England, when I was there about 8, 9 years ago, when the latest Harry Potter book was coming out, there were these long serpentine queues outside Waterstones and W.H. Smith's. And I asked my brother, why this long queue? What's happening out there? So I said, Hindustan mein to jab bhandara hota hai na, tabhi itna lamba queue dikhai deta hai. To which he said, the Harry Potter's latest is coming out, and that is why children are, and young and old alike, everybody's lined outside Waterstones and W.H. Smith to catch the book. And it hit me hard. The children read, people read, but maybe when it comes to anything which is preachy or didactic like the Puranas, maybe the book is not as interesting to get people interested. And that is why we need to write something which is interesting. As they say, लफ्ज़ों के भी जायके होते हैं, चक्कर परोसना चाहिए. So why not give them something which is interesting, a different interpretation of the stories that already are, and the kind of magic that we see in the Harry Potter and other series, the same magic is there in our Puranas as well. The stories are very much alike. Then I started researching, and there are 24 stories from the 18 Mahapuranas, and I was careful that these stories are not preposterous, they have a logic, some scientific backing. And also there are physical evidences available on these, regarding these stories. So if you have a Somnath temple in Gujarat, you have to understand why it is there, why Chandradev and Shiva came together. That story is here. So if you have the Shuktal close to Haridwar, that story is also here. So when you also have the Adi Vinayak temple, which is the only temple in our country which has Ganesha as Vinayaka, the boy with a human face and not the boy with an elephant face. Why all that is there? The stories are here. So there is nothing preposterous, there are physical evidences available. So when today our children are believing in Avengers or super warriors or anti-gravity weapons, all those weapons were here. So when you speak about Sanjay's Divyadrashti in Mahabharat, what is our mobile, what are our web talks all about? They all are Divyadrashtis, multiplied by 1,000. And so when you speak about my favorite character is Shukdev. Shukdev was a favorite parrot of Radharani. And when it was time for Radharani to leave the temporal plane and go up to the heavens, because her purpose on earth was over, and she said her byes to her favorite parrot, the parrot started crying and saying, I cannot live without you. There is no way I'm going to live without you, so I'll kill myself. So Radharani tells him that no, your purpose is still not over on the temporal plane. You have to stay here. You have to tell the stories of mine and Krishna's love and stay put. So he had to stay put. So when he started telling stories of Radharani's and Krishna's love to other people, he found himself freezing at the mere mention of Radharani, because he would go back in time, he would start crying and he could not go on. So when it was time for Rishi Parikshit to hear the entire Bhagavad Purana from Shukdev, Shukdev was the narrator of the Bhagavad Purana, and King Parikshit had only 7 days to live. So there was no way Shukdev could have narrated the entire story without freezing, without thinking about Radharani, without crying and going back in time for months and months. So in the entire Bhagavad Purana, he talks about the Leelas of Krishna, he talks about the love between Radharani and Krishna, but he never mentions her even once. So he keeps calling her Gopi or Gopika, and that is why in the Bhagavad Purana, which is basically an ode to Krishna and his Leelas, there is not a mere mention of Radharani. So this was quite a revelation and I so loved it.
That's so nice, Mona ma'am. आप में से कुछ स्टूडेंट्स दिख रहे हैं मुझे, तो ये क्या आर्किटेक्ट्स हैं या साइंस स्टूडेंट्स हैं या इंजीनियर्स हैं ज़्यादा? चलो, दैट्स ग्रेट. तो वी हैव अक्षत हियर एंड ही इज़ ऑल्सो रिटन अ लवली बुक. दिस इज़ द हिडन हिंदू. It's available in the stores downstairs. And इसमें इन्होंने एक फिक्शनल कैरेक्टर हैं ओम शास्त्री, उनकी कहानी लिखी. आर यू कंफर्टेबल इन हिंदी या इंग्लिश या अभी तक जो हो रहा है, यू आर कंफर्टेबल ऑल ऑफ यू ऑल? तो अक्षत has come across as a very candid, no nonsense, जो बोलते हैं सही बोलते हैं. तो ये अपने और बताएंगे कि इन्होंने कैसे ये 4 युगों को जोड़ा है और हिडन हिंदू में ओम शास्त्री की कहानी लिखी है, who claims to have existed in all the 4 yugs, and he's searching for the other 7 immortals. And आपको as engineers आपने क्यों पढ़ना चाहिए, and what is your takeaway, what is your return जब आप ये पुराण या उपनिषद पढ़ते हैं तो उससे क्या आप what are you going to gain tangibly?
दोनों मैम लोगों ने बहुत सारा समय लगा के सबको थैंक यू बोला है, तो मेरा डिट्टो बहुत सारा टाइम नहीं लगाते. माय नेम इज़ अक्षत गुप्ता, आई एम अ फुल टाइम, अभी सर ने बोला था कि नो नॉनसेंस गाय, सो माय नेम इज़ अक्षत गुप्ता, आई एम अ फुल टाइम हाउस हस्बैंड एंड अ पार्ट टाइम ऑथर. बुक है, मैंने जो सोचा था कि मैं बोलूँगा वो सर ने बता दिया बुक के बारे में मेरी जगह पे, but that's okay. So not repeating myself in a very long thing. This is a fiction blend with Hindu mythology and Indian history. And there's this man, a character, my fictional character, who claims to have been on the face of earth since the birth of the earth. So he's never died, he's not aging. He has been a part of both Ramayana and Mahabharata. He has met both Ram and Krishna in person, but he's none of the 7 immortals that we know a little bit about. So he says that I am the 8th immortal that the world has never heard of before. And I'm in search of the remaining 7 immortals that we know a little bit about. So once it happened that अभी मैम बोल रही थी तो मैम use this word called Puranas. So मैं भी किसी को कुछ समझा रहा था और मैंने बोला पुराना, तो उन्होंने कहा कितना पुराना. तो उससे एक बात समझ में आई कि when history becomes history, we start calling it mythology. जब पुराना हो जाता है तो हम उसको पुराना कहने लग जाते हैं. You know, so there will be a day when all of you and all of us will be a part of mythology, not history. So that is how mythology runs. Mythology comes from myth, myth comes from mithya. तो अगर आप इसको मिथ्या मानेंगे तो mythology, अगर आप इसको सत्या मानेंगे तो सत्यालॉजी. So I like more than 90% of the part that we read, I believe कि वो सत्यालॉजी है, not mythology. I'll give you 1 or 2 quick examples, क्योंकि वो पीछे एक मैम खड़ी हैं, वो तुरंत बोर्ड उठा लेती हैं कि तुम्हारा 15 मिनट ही बचा है. So अभी हम लोग while we were talking on lunch, रामायण में वो परभानु वाली 2 लाइनें सबको पता ही होगा. That is the distance between earth and sun, and that is almost accurate. तो सालों हज़ारों सालों बाद जब नासा ने निकाला कि अर्थ और सन का डिस्टेंस इतने लाइट ईयर्स है, उसके कई 100 सालों पहले से हमारे घर के बच्चे, हमारे दादाजी और उनके भी दादाजी हनुमान चालीसा पढ़ रहे हैं. सो हमको पता था कि अर्थ और सन का डिस्टेंस क्या है. ये मत पूछेगा कि उनको कैसे पता था, क्योंकि मुझे नहीं पता. और इसी चीज़ को हमको जानने की ज़रूरत है. यू नो, अभी हम माइथोलॉजी से क्या सीख सकते हैं इज़ द मेन टॉपिक दैट वी आर टॉकिंग हियर. आप देखिए अभी there is a reason, subconsciously there's a reason why sir started with ma'am and then came me. हिंदू माइथोलॉजी में लगभग हर देवी देवता का नाम पहले फीमेल्स का लिया जाता है. तो इक्वालिटी जो हम लोग अभी चिल्ला रहे हैं, ये सब मेरे टाइम पे होना है. ये जो हम इक्वालिटी चिल्ला रहे हैं ना, ये बहुत पहले से है. आप देखिए गौरी शंकर बोलते हैं, है ना, लक्ष्मी नारायण बोलते हैं, सिया राम बोलते हैं, राधा कृष्ण बोलते हैं,
करेक्ट,
है ना. तो अभी जो इक्वालिटी की बात हो रही है, एक्चुअली वी आर नॉट ट्राइंग टू गिव इक्वल प्लेसेस टू द वुमेन. दे आर मच हायर देन अस ऑलरेडी. तो हम ये इक्वालिटी इज अ गिमिक. हम उनको 80% से 50 लाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं. हम अपने आप को 20 से 50 ले जाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं. आप सोचिए कि जितने भी गॉड्स हैं, दिखते हैं या नहीं दिखते हैं, लेकिन एवरीबडी साउंड लाइक अ मेल. यू नो, ब्रह्मा विष्णु महेश, गुरु नानक देव, अल्लाह, जीसस, करेक्ट. इफ दीज गॉड्स आर सो पावरफुल, imagine the irony for all of them that none of them can enter the world without the permission of a woman.
Correct.
Nobody. तो अर्थ होगा उनका, लेकिन इनके परमिशन के बिना वो भी यहाँ नहीं आ सकते हैं. दे आर दैट पावरफुल. तो अब हम ये भूल गए हैं. अब वो लेडीज फर्स्ट बोल के हमको लगता है बड़े जेंटलमैन हो गए. तो हर चीज़ ओके. सर एक बार ऐसा हुआ था कि मेरे क्लास में एक नया टीचर आया था. आई वॉज इन क्लास 6th and he asked me what is the difference between invention and discovery. उन्होंने प्लेकार्ड फिर से उठा लिया पीछे. So what is the difference? Give me the shortest difference between invention and discovery. And सब उनको impress करने की कोशिश कर रहे थे because he was a new teacher. So was I. So मैंने हाथ उठाया, लंबा चौड़ा जवाब दिया. Difference between बोले हाँ ठीक है, सिट डाउन। फिर 2-3-4 बच्चों ने जवाब दिया, मुझे लगा अभी भी ये ही सर्चिंग आंसर। मैंने फिर हाथ उठा दिया, लंबा चौड़ा जवाब दिया, उन्होंने बोला हाँ सिट डाउन। तीसरी बार जब हाथ उठाया तो चिढ़ गए मुझसे, वाइल आई वॉज ट्राइंग टू इम्प्रेस हिम। तो उन्होंने खड़ा किया, मैंने फिर कुछ लंबा चौड़ा बोला जैसे मैं अभी बोल रहा हूँ, और उन्होंने गुस्से से बोला, यू नो व्हाट, योर फादर डिस्कवर्ड योर मदर एंड इन्वेंटेड यू, यू सिट डाउन। Though later I realized that it was the other way around. My mom discovered my dad and invented me because they were love married and my mom proposed. उसमें भी देखो लेडीज आगे थी उस समय भी. So ऐसी बहुत सारी चीजें हैं जो हमको, why did I say this invention and discovery is that most of these things that we think that we are inventing now is actually rediscovering. सच में मतलब बहुत सारी चीज, वो विमाना पुराण, कुछ लोग डिसएग्री कर सकते हैं कि हर बात पे ये विमान को विमाना और पुराण को पुराण क्यों बोल रहा है, पर अभी मैं सुधारने की कोशिश कर रहा हूँ, प्रैक्टिस चल रही है. सो विमाना पुराण पे पूरा एक पुराण लिखा हुआ है, तो इट इज़ वेरी इजी फॉर अस टू लाफ कि पुष्पक विमान, जब साइकिल नहीं बनी थी तो लोग उड़ रहे थे भाई, सच में उड़ रहे थे. तो वो मिथ्या, और अब भाई ऑक्सीजन तो नहीं दिखता है, पर साइंस ने बोला कि आप जो इनहेल करते हो वो ऑक्सीजन है, तो मान लिया ना हम लोग ने. तो फिर हर वो चीज़ दिखे वही लॉजिकल है, ऐसा करेक्ट नहीं है. ऐसी बहुत सारी चीज़ें हैं जो नहीं दिखती हैं पर होती हैं, जैसे कि टाइम. सो मैं वापस सर को देता हूँ क्योंकि टाइम नहीं दिख रहा है पर बढ़ रहा है.
Thank you so much, Akshat, for making it so lively and bringing a smile on all our faces. I can see the entire audience smiling. You've gained a lot of fans here now. So
He has planned.
this is actually what we are discussing is, if I can use the term, back to the future. कि हम पिछला देख के अपना अगला ठीक कर सकते हैं क्या, and what can we learn from that? Maybe क्या आर्किटेक्चर सीख सकते हैं क्या, हम अपने सिविल इंजीनियरिंग सीख सकते हैं क्या राम सेतु से, या अपने धन्वंतरी से हम क्या मेडिसिन के बारे में सीख सकते हैं, या इवन जो मेरी ललिता मैम से बात हो रही थी, आजकल की जो एक मेजर बर्निंग प्रॉब्लम इज रिलेशनशिप्स. कई घर, कई रिलेशनशिप्स टूट रही हैं, और इन सब का इतना सुंदर वर्णन है अपने माइथोलॉजी में. चाहे वो भाई भाई का प्रेम हो, जो राम भरत लक्ष्मण शत्रुघ्न में दिखा कि राम जी को वनवास होने के बाद भी भरत लक्ष्मण शत्रुघ्न ने किस तरह से अपने आप को कंडक्ट किया, या देवरानी जेठानी ने कैसे अपने आप को कंडक्ट किया. तीनों दशरथ की जो वाइफ्स हैं, जो सीता जी या उर्मिला जी और सीता जी ने अपने आप को कैसे कंडक्ट किया. एंड देयर सो मच. आप रिलेशनशिप्स पे कुछ बोलना चाहेंगे मैम? क्या हम सीख सकते हैं, या शुड वी, डू वी हैव टाइम, या हम क्वेश्चन आंसर्स ले लें खाली?
बड़े ब्रूटल हैं सर ये लोग, हो गया बोलते हैं टाइम.
हो गया तो फिर देन, हाँ तो आप लोग फिर देन विल टेक सम क्वेश्चंस फ्रॉम द क्राउड, अगर ऑडियंस से अगर कोई कुछ पूछना चाहे मैम से या अक्षत से.
ऑडियंस में से कोई कुछ नहीं पूछेगा तो फिर हम सीधा सवाल पैनल से ही लेंगे. आई थिंक दे वुड हैव लॉट लार्जर इनसाइट.
I would like to tell one thing, continuing from what Akshat said. If you have seen the Puranas, I mean, if you've seen the mythology, the shape of the earth is round. That came very much later. It was discovered by the Western scientists. But before itself, there was the Hiranyaksha, the incident. He brings up the Varaha avatar of Mahavishnu, brings up the earth, and that pictorial depiction of the earth as round was done so many years before.
ये मैम ने अभी जो बोला, वी विल कम टू यू. ये जो मैम ने अभी बोला ये तो है ही पुराणों में. पुराण इतने पुराने नहीं हुए हैं एक्चुअली. मैं आपको एक और बात बताता हूँ कि वेस्टर्न कंट्री, वी आर सो इन्फ्लुएंस्ड बाय वेस्टर्न कंट्रीज. लुक एट मी. सो यू नो, जब वहाँ पहली बार जब किसी ने कहा था ना कि अर्थ इज़ राउंड, उसको एक्चुअली फांसी पे टांग दिए थे, उसको मार दिया था क्योंकि उसने कहा कि अर्थ इज राउंड। जब वहाँ उसको मारा जा रहा था ना, तब भी हम यहाँ ज्योग्राफी को भूगोल ही कहते थे। भू मतलब लैंड और गोल मतलब गोल। सो वी समहाउ न्यू एवरीथिंग। एक दिन नासा ने एक एडवांस टेलीस्कोप बनाया और पूरी दुनिया को बताया कि बीच में सन है और 9 प्लैनेट्स घूम रहे हैं, एंड वी कॉल इट सोलार सिस्टम। हम उसके अनगिनत सालों पहले से सौरमंडल शब्द जानते हैं, और 9 ग्रहों की पूजा होती है बच्चा पैदा होता से लेके, और घर में जब किसी का डिमाइस होता है उसके बावजूद भी। सो दिस इज ऑल बीन रीडिस्कवरिंग नथिंग, वी आर नॉट इन्वेंटिंग एनीथिंग। सॉरी, नॉट टेकिंग लॉन्ग। वो फिर वो प्लेकार्ड उठाएगी पीछे से।
नहीं, that's fantastic, sir. Yeah, precisely.
Gods were aliens. See, that is something that we have lost. We have lost the base of the science of mythology that we call now. We have started calling it mythology only because we don't have the base of that times, the science of the time. So just because वो अभी कुछ हम invent नहीं कर पाए हैं, तो जब तक science, अब we talk about 7 immortals, and हम लोग हंस देते हैं कि सब बुढ़े होते हैं, सब मर जाते हैं, ये तो पॉसिबल ही नहीं है। आज से 1000 साल पहले, 500 साल पहले बहुत सारी चीज़ें इम्पॉसिबल थी। अर्थ के बाहर ग्रेविटी छोड़ना इम्पॉसिबल था ना, लेकिन तो हम हंसते हैं कि पुष्पक विमान नहीं हो सकता था। तो आने वाले समय में अगर इमोर्टैलिटी हो जाएगी तभी मानेंगे कि उस समय भी साइंस था। ये थोड़ा सा अनफेयर नहीं हो जाएगा उन लोगों के लिए जो अब अपनी बात नहीं रख पा रहे हैं?
Fantastic. Yeah, you want to speak, gentlemen? I think he's. Yeah.
Yeah, there are 7 immortals who are still here. राहु केतु माना जाता है that they are still here. They cannot die because अमृत चकलियते वाला पूरा कहानी है. But I think मैम should answer that. मैं बहुत ज़्यादा देर से बकबक कर रहा हूँ.
Actually, I didn't understand your question. It is.
बेटा, एक तो ये जो डेफिनेशन है असुर और गॉड का, ये हर प्राणी में असुर भी है और प्रभु भी हैं, दोनों का वास है हर एक में। तो एक क्लियर डेफिनेशन मैं तो नहीं देना चाहूँगा कि हम रावण को बोलते हैं कि असुर थे या राक्षस थे, बट वो शिव भक्त थे, एंड ही वॉज, हिस्ट्री इज रिटन बाय द विक्टर्स। अगर रावण जीते होते तो शायद रामायण की जगह रावणायण लिखी जाती। तो ऐसा नहीं है कि कोई असुर ही होता है या कोई देव ही होता है, आप में और हम में दोनों की इक्वल मात्रा में है। शायद अलग अलग हम लोग अपना व्यवहार जो करते हैं अलग अलग लोगों से, उससे हम उसको असुर या भगवान मानते हैं, पर आपके उसमें भी भगवान का उतना ही अंश है जितना मेरे अंदर है। और आपका दूसरा क्वेश्चन भी मैं कोशिश करता हूँ आंसर करने की कि वो ज्ञान कहाँ से आता है। तो वो ज्ञान ऐसे कोई किताब पढ़ने से नहीं आता है। बुद्ध को ज्ञान कहाँ से आया या वो कौन सा ज्ञान था, ये वाली किताब का ज्ञान नहीं है, या ट्रिग्नोमेट्री या कैलकुलस नहीं है। वो ज्ञान है जिस ज्ञान के बियॉन्ड और कोई भी ज्ञान नहीं है। जो बुद्ध इतने साल से एक पेड़ के नीचे रह के उन्होंने जो हम लोग अष्टांग योग पढ़ते हैं, मेरे गुरु सामने बैठे हैं, उनका इजाज़त लेके बोल रहा हूँ, यम नियम आसन प्राणायाम प्रत्याहार धारणा ध्यान समाधि। तो अष्टांग योग जो करते हैं, जो समाधि के या ध्यान के जब हम लोग जाते हैं, तो उस समय बहुत सारा ज्ञान आपको अपने आप आएगा, बट दैट नीड्स कि आप साइलेंस में बैठो। दैट इज दैट ज्ञान विच हैविंग नोन दैट यू डोंट नीड एनीथिंग एल्स, वो ज्ञान की बात हो रही है, और उस ज्ञान में सारा ज्ञान आ जाता है।
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I have 3 questions. So first is, what is the difference between itihasa and mythology? Second is, why is there such a need to prove that we had scientific inventions I mean, we had deep thinking about human nature and human understanding. Why can't we just stick with that and bring that forward? Why are we in such a need to prove that we had all the scientific theories? And there is a talk, sir talked about Pushpa Viman. There were not even the basic necessities available at that moment for aeroplanes to fly, and that is why we are made fun of everywhere. Why can't we just stick to the science of human beings, deep human nature we had, and we should, as you said, like we have lost it, but we have not lost the external sciences of like flying, plane flying and stuff. We didn't had it. Why can't we acknowledge it? Why is there such insecurity in us to just accept that we had deep understandings, deep insights, the deepest insights about human nature, and celebrating that and bringing that forward? So I have a complaint against you guys because that quickly becomes superstitious, very quickly, and it doesn't help us youngsters.
अब लोग पलट के आपका चेहरा देख रहे हैं.
अब लोग क्या?
No, I'm just taking it very lightly, saying that there are people who are now looking at your faces because you use this word complain.
There is.
Thankfully, we are not offended.
Great.
See, आपने जो deep understanding of human behavior बोला है, none of us sitting here are experts of that. We are only discussing on the thing that we know a little bit about. We are not even calling ourselves experts. But you know what? I'll give you another example. अभी ये बोटॉक्स वगैरह बहुत चलता है ना heroines में, the plastic surgery things. We need to know that we were the first plastic surgeons of the world. Let me. I have had your question. I will try in the best of my capacities to answer you. सुश्रुत ने 27 volumes लिखा, सुश्रुत संहिता बनाई. It went to Arab countries, converted into Persian, then it was taken to European and English countries, converted it in English, called it plastic surgery, repackaged it and sent it back to us. Now we are happy calling it plastic surgery. We need to know that we are the first plastic surgeons of the world. Sushrut was the one, right? In the same way, there is a proper Puran, it is documented, it is written. There's this book called Viman Puran. I'm not making it up here. So just because we have, as I said, you said, why do we always try mixing up history and mythology, right? More or less that was one of your three questions.
I wanted to ask, like, what is the difference between Itihasa and mythology?
See, since last 5,000 years, more or less, give me some discount on that, we have been documenting things. But it has not been our idea of, narrating. The documentation has come too late, right, ma'am? It has been come too late. पर उसके पहले मैम ने अभी बोला था स्मृति. So we used to narrate it in poems and in stories, which is why from one mouth to another, from one clan to another, it has diluted it a little bit. जैसे वानर बोल रहे हैं, वो वन नर है. Please.
So I agree we had the oral tradition and you're giving examples of social.
Which is why I'm saying that it is diluted. I'm not saying that everything said in it is a fact.
I'm not denying that. I'm saying, we had the oral tradition and we are saying about Sushruta and we have the evidence for it. I'm saying for the Viman Puran, we don't have any evidence.
No, we have.
No, there were no planes.
Sorry?
In this country, we didn't had planes. We didn't had the basic theories, basic of the theories developed at that moment. Why are we so after proving it is my question. Why can't we stick to Ayurveda? We had Ayurveda. We had the greatest definition of health. And we are still we know what does health mean. In the West, they say absence of disease is health. That's all the definition of health is. But we in India understand deeply what health is. Why can't we stick to that? And if at all we do some scientific discoveries now using our ancient past, then then it's just out there for everybody. But right now it has become superstition.
See now, all of us,
and it's affecting youngsters.
All of us are wanting to answer this, ma'am. I'll just pass on the mic.
And so one more, just last one point. I'm sorry.
Now we are not dealing.
One last point.
Please.
You talked about Sushruta, but our Prime Minister said on a public podium that Ganesha did plastic surgery, and actually it affects our country rather than helping our country. It didn't help our country
See,
at all.
I am very clear that I am not going political.
No, I'm just stating what happened.
Yeah, we are not allowed to go political, though I have very strong political views as well. But वो फिर उनको 15-20 बार उठाना पड़ेगा placard. I don't want to do that. Okay, I had something, but अभी दिमाग से उतर गया. I'll come back.
Well, you spoke about history and mythology. So I'll give you just one example. Maybe it will satiate your curiosity, maybe it will not. I agree that. When Malik Muhammad Jaisi wrote Padmavat, he repeatedly said, it is an allegorical tale. It is just a tale. And the same tale was also told in Persia as a dastan. So it was a tale between the beautiful Rani of Chittor, Padmavat, as well as her luckless suitor, Khilji, right? But over the years, this tale was repeated so many times, that over the years, people started believing in Padmavat and Khilji's one-sided love for her. So today, in today's time, you know, when the movie was released, it is almost sacrilege for people to say that Padmavat was not there. Because when things are repeated, then fiction turns into reality. Yesterday's fiction is today's reality. And why we place so much of weightage on these things? Because there are so many principles from the past which explain life so beautifully today. For example, I'm a corporate trainer, and every time we need to introduce herd mentality, we give Kabir's Doha. Mund mundaye hari mile, to har koi le mundaye, bar bar ke mundte, to bhed na bank uts jaye. Isn't it? When it comes to teamwork, Rahim says, Rahiman Preeti na kijiye, jas Khiran ne ki. Upar se to dil mila, andar phanke teen. Lack of teamwork in an organization. So we are forced to believe that all those principles are applicable in today's life. So what was yesterday's fiction is today's reality. What we think as real today could be a fiction tomorrow. So things change flavors. See, with every 100 years, there are 3 generations telling the story, 30, 35, 30, 35, 30, 35. So it changes the flavors. The way a story is told and with how much conviction it is told is totally dependent upon the social reasons at that point, the religious reasons at that point, the psychological reasons at that point, and the practical reasons at that point. कोई चीज़ें जो पहले बताई जाती थी वो पहले भी हमें मिथ्या लगती थी, आज भी मिथ्या लगती हैं, लेकिन कल कुछ अगर ऐसा इन्वेंशन हो गया तो वो मिथ्या हमें सत्य लगने लगेगा. So when we speak about Sanjay's Drivya Drishti, it was mithya until the webinars weren't invented. It was a mithya until then, if you think in practical times. So if webinars नहीं होते, कुछ नहीं होते, तो we would have found it very preposterous कि ये बात कैसे कह दी. But when there is something which basically makes it more legible, which makes it more legit, which gives some degree of credibility to that belief, it turns into a reality. So yesterday's fiction, today's reality. This is what I have to say.
Madam, actually,
Oh, okay, sorry. I had no idea.
Please carry on.
this whatever apprehensions this young man has or young generation has, so I have a question for each of one of you panelists. What effort should be taken to connect this to now? See, we have mythologies. We are thinking about rediscovering these mythologies, putting these efforts into the present context. So what do you think should be the effort taken by this, so that this young generation or this whatever knowledge we have is transferred into or is converted into reality in the present time?
I would like to slightly go on a tangent. History, as he said, Ramayana and Mahabharata, if you go to see, Ramayana took place around 8 lakh years ago, and Mahabharata took place around more than 5,000 years ago. And they have been documented very much later. So that is why we feel that there may be some discrepancies, you may call it. But oral tradition has continued right from the beginning. And if you really want to go into mythology and find out what it will give you in future, you take the Vastu Shastra. It is so deep, such a deep knowledge of architecture that is being used in present times. They call it Vastu, but it has been there since ages. And if you see our ancient temples, which were built so many years ago, the Garbhagraha, the Sanctum Sanctorum, has all the power centered inside that Garbhagraha, and it is being let out when the Aarti or Deeparadhana is taken. So this gives you an idea of how much mythology has influenced our lives even in the present days. You can get so many things from them, from those old tales. It need not be true, it need not be actually fact which has happened. There is 90% history in everything. 10% is fiction. But if you go to see, there are so many things that you can get. As I said, familial values, the kindred spirit, the brotherly affection which was shown by Rama's brothers towards him. Bharata was actually offered the country, the kingdom on a platter by his mother, but he refused to take it up only because he had that brotherly affection, and he had respect for Rama, and he had that feeling that Rama was a right ruler for that country. So this is something, again, Rama's respect for the promises to be kept. All these things can be taken by our younger generation, and they can use it to their